WTMA Talk Radio 1250.
By the way, that's a story about this theme song, too, Richard.
You hear the familiar phrase of the Dan Moon theme here on the Morning Buzz. I'm Richard Todd with Dan Moon on the Big Talker. 20 years ago today, June 1st, 1989, WTMA went talk radio. Dan Moon was there. He was against the idea of flipping.
Yeah, but I didn't think anybody would turn their telephone into a microphone.
I remember you saying that many times. What about the theme song? What about the catchy theme song?
Theme song came about as a result of Hurricane Hugo. I wasn't going to go back on the air again at all. In other words, when we went to talk radio, I told Bill Dudley at the time, I said, Bill, you're crazy. You're stupid. I said, you want me to run this thing. He wanted me to be the operations manager, run it. And Hugh Jett was a salesman, and he wanted Hugh Jett to be the general manager, but mainly deal with the sales end of things.
Man, a lot of names from radio past in Charleston here he's throwing around. Bill Dudley and Hugh Jett.
Hugh Jett, he told Hugh Jett to hire me and Hugh never did. He would never call me. And so finally one day Hugh did, and he said, let's meet at McDonald's up at the end of Orange Grove Road. Mm-hmm. We met up there, and he didn't want to hire me. That's why he didn't call me. He did not want to work with me. And, that was pretty evident. But any rate.
Well, we have another one. We were talking with Dean Swanson here in the background. I heard Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Dean, I wanted you to finish the story because I know people who had a lot of experiences that listeners had when it came to Dan, listening to him over the years, but working with him and going through news events. I mean, you kind of bond when you go through these kinds of events, and you did as well, not with Hugo, but with another hurricane. By the way, Dean, we call those hurricanes that move right towards the coast and then turn at the last minute. Great promotional opportunities for talk radio. That's what we call them now. So go ahead, Dean. And thanks for joining us, too.
We didn't look at it that way, but I just remember working with Dan on that storm, and boy, the adrenaline was flowing. But we worked together very well, I think, going back and forth and talking about what steps people should be taking. And yes, and then it started a slight move to the north. And I remember, but the emergency preparedness people said, well, don't let your guard down. Don't let your guard down. It could come back. And about that time, we got Mayor Riley on the phone live, and I remember...
The one constant in all of this, by the way, I think Mayor Riley was there when we signed on June the 1st, 1939 at the Dock Street Theater, but go ahead.
And the mayor wanted to announce that garbage collections would resume the next day.
I remember that.
And I remember asking him, Mayor, if you're assured enough that you can talk about garbage collections now, can we assume that the danger from this storm is over? He had to admit, yes,
I remember that very well, Dean, and I remember in my mind thinking, the mayor's an idiot, and that's just what I said in my mind. I think the mayor's an idiot, and I came on the air at some point and I mentioned that. I said, come on, Joe Riley's done a great job in preparing everybody, but there ain't gonna be no dang garbage collection. There's not even going to be any garbage cans, you know what I mean? And the garbage trucks may be underwater.
I love the constancy. There's a consistency about this that he's saying the mayor was an idiot. I sometimes say that the mayor was an idiot. We were just talking off the air about Senator McConnell was mad at him. I think Senator McConnell's mad at me. Now, I love, the more things change, the more they say the same, Dan.
Dean, we had a wonderful time back then. We had a good team. We really did. And I think without good teamwork, everybody having mutual respect for one another.
Absolutely.
It just worked beautifully.
Yep.
I never could figure out why people respected me. I respected you because you were a former television guy.
Dean was a good one. Dean was a
very good one.
Yeah, he's missed.
And we had a good crew over there that I very much respected. I was the operations manager, but I had as much respect for the rest of the crew as anybody. I hate to make this sound any other way than honest. It's a bygone era in radio that just doesn't exist nowadays, of the corporatization of radio in general. And Dean, because we should have mentioned this earlier, Mike Robertson's working at the College of Charleston now. That's right? Dean, yeah. What are you up to nowadays, Dean?
Retired, happily.
Did you get out of the vending business?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Dean, when he left us, he went into running a vending machine business.
Well, vending machines or vending on the radio with news and information. So, hey, Dean, it's great to talk to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Nice talking with you guys, and happy 70th birthday to TMA. Hope to see all of you at the Bash on the 20th, is it?
Saturday, June the 20th. We're going to be gathering together to take a walk down memory lane, and the only way our listeners can get in is to win, but Dean, you got an invite, buddy.
Thanks,
Dean.
He paid his admission a long time ago, just by working here.
Yeah, Dean, Dean and Dee were really good when they were over there.
You know what I should have brought down here, John, Quincy, and Todd? I should have brought down my WTMA microphone. You know, when I left here, when I retired almost 6 years ago from here, I ran into JT, our engineer, several years later, and I was doing a little production work from my home, commercials and things. And I said, I need a good quality microphone. And he said, Dan, I think the very microphone that you use to do all of those TMA remotes, every Friday we took the show out on location somewhere. He said, that very microphone, if nobody's taken it, is probably still in that old van out there. And he said, if it is, it's yours. And sure enough, it was out there. So I have at home, right there on my desk, standing up on a stand, I have that very microphone. I should have brought it down here.
Why did you never do your show in this
Wait a minute, has
studio?
the statute of limitations run out on that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's long gone.
He's not partnering with that.
But, listen, I asked somebody about that one day, and they said, Dan, you reminded me when you said he paid his dues earlier. Somebody said, Dan, you paid for that microphone over and over
That's
and
true.
over.
Yeah, you sure did.
Why you always did your show in the control room where John Quincy is right now?
I wanted to be close to. I felt like if I were in another studio, Richard, that I couldn't have that closeness and bonding with Madeline Kelly at first, and then Thomas, and Fred and the guys and Dean and all these. I felt like I needed to be right there with them because, for one thing, I wasn't real technical, and I didn't know how to do talkback buttons and all this mess, and I didn't trust talkback buttons, and so I said, if I'm right there in the same room with them, then I can just turn my mic off and say, do this, or let's do this next. Let's change this up. No, do this. Now put this, And so I would basically produce the show from right there. And I just felt that close bond.
Well, as a result, this room turned into what we called Rocky's bedroom because basically Rocky took over the room. Well, we've been redoing it for the television simulcast on Comcast C2, and there are some big changes yet to come for our 70th birthday. But I want to go back to the phones to welcome another individual who worked with Dan, and also somebody who you mentioned a little while ago. Hey, caller, good morning. Say hello to Dan Moon.
Good morning, Dan.
Oh, I'll tell you. That's Amy Garrison.
Amy Garrison.
Yes.
Amy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Amy was she was, in all due respect to your predecessor, who was Dorothy Conflenti, who was also a very attractive young lady. Amy had nice, pretty blonde hair. She was a pretty girl. Probably still is. Haven't seen her in a long time.
Amy would be great for the Comcast C2 simulcast now on television.
Yeah, she would.
Amy, you would be great for. Amy, how you doing? What are you doing nowadays? And tell us about your time here at the WTMA.
Well, I was there from 90 to 95, and Dan and I co-hosted the morning news. So when I heard him earlier saying, Amy, couldn't remember my last name, I was sitting there thinking, I looked at his mug for 5 years every day.
Amy, all due respect. Amy, listen, you got to understand, all of these were my kids. And Amy was like my daughter. And I looked at all of the employees like my children because they were all so much younger than me. But Amy was great, and Amy, all due respect, I loved working with you. You were very good at your job, but you were great to look at in the mornings as well.
Amy was Amy Wayman was very good at her job. Amy, what are you doing nowadays?
I sell advertising now.
Where are you nowadays?
I am in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, you didn't give it the beach life too much then.
No, I'm actually in Atlantic Beach, which is kind of like Sullivan's Island, I guess.
You've been down in Florida for a good long while, haven't you, Amy?
I have. I moved down here when I left WTMA. I moved down here in 1995.
Well, Amy, you were definitely a good one. We got a bad connection, Amy. I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for calling in, Amy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, Amy.
The lovely and talented Amy Garrison, we thank her for joining us. And we go back to the phones at 556-1250 as Dan Moon is our guest in the studio. It was 20 years ago today, June 1st, 1989, that WTMA went to the talk radio format. And, well, the Low Country's never been the same. And as I said, I am just the latest lucky inhabitant of a chair occupied by a lot of legends. Thursday morning, Booby Nash is going to join us here in the studio.
Bob,
and Dan Moon is here now. And let's go to the phones here at 556-1250 and say hello to former state senator Sherry Marchink. Hey, Sherry.